Hello, Finxters, and welcome. In this lesson, we'll take a look at built-in Python modules and methods for working with command line arguments. We're going to look at three methods and compare them and see how they line up with each other. And they're going to be systems argv, sysargv, argparse, and getOp. So let's go ahead and break these down individually. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code text editor for this project. And what I've done is I've got three separate Python files, and I'll explain why I've separated those when we do this first one. So the first thing we want to do with each of these is we want to import the sys module, SYS. And the sys module is basically, it is a system-specific parameters and functions is what that stands for. And we'll import that. And then I've written a small script here to demonstrate, first of all, this is pretty simple. We've got print, what is the name of the script, comma, sys.argv. Argv is argument vector. You hear a lot online. A lot of times people will misinterpret that as argument value and different things. And just be aware that it's argument vector. Okay. And it's basically a variable that's contains arguments passed through the command line. Okay, and we've got this set for index 0, and I'll explain that here in a minute. We've got print how many arguments, length systems.argv, sys.argv, and then print what are the arguments. We're going to put this as a string, sys.argv. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go and bring up our PowerShell prompt here. Now, the first thing we want to do is, since I'm doing this in VS Code, I want to change the directory a little bit so I can get to my VS Code file. So I'm going to go change directory dot VS Code. We'll run that, hit enter. Okay, and now it shows me the path here with the VS Code included. Now I'm going to call Python. And we can do Py or Python, whatever you prefer. If you want to save on typing, just do py. And then my file name here, which is testcommand.py for the first file. So we'll put that in. And don't forget your .py. And then let's go ahead and we'll just add some random integers for arguments. Okay. Now let's run that and see what we get. Okay. And there we go. What is the name of the script? Testcommand.py. How many arguments are there? Total 5. We've got the file itself at 0 index. And then the integers that I entered. Okay. And what are the arguments? Now here we get it back. We get a list of strings, the file, and our 4 other arguments. Okay. And pretty interesting. Now what I want to do here, let's minimize this for a moment, and we'll go here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my code a little bit. I'm going to uncomment this part of the code, and then I'm going to comment out the part that we just used, and I'll show you why this is important. And we're going to go ahead and we'll run this with the same commands on the command line. And you can see that VS Code is now included. once you do that once, then you'll always have it. So let's just go here and we'll do py, same file, dot py, and then the same arguments. Okay, and now we're going to run this again. And instead of this new code here running, what we get is the same thing we did with this other code. All right. And the reason for that is if you change a file or it's a new file, you have to save the file for this to work in the command prompt. So what I'm going to do, whenever you want to start again, we're just going to do CLS, okay, CLS, hit enter, and that'll clear my my prompt. Okay, so now I'm going to put this down. I'm just doing this to show you how this works. I'm going to put this, close this, and I'll save it. Okay, now we'll just go back to that same file, open it again. All right, now that it's saved, we'll go back to our prompt, and we're going to do py, call Python, dot py, make sure that's correct. All right, and then same arguments. Okay, and now get this out of the way just a little bit if I can. Tell you what, let's close that. Okay, beautiful. Now we'll bring that back. Now let's run it again and see what we get. All right, so now after I save the file and I run those same arguments, then I get the results from this other code, which we've done. The length, total arguments passed. Okay, we've just assigned a variable n to the length. Okay, arguments passed, new line, name of the Python script, which is our systems.argv index 0, as we saw before. Right, arguments passed, and we're going to have a little for loop here to parse through the systems.argv. Okay, for I in range, we're starting at 1 and n, print systems.argv I, and that, and then we're going to have a little bit of a code here to sum the integers or the arguments. 1, index 1 to the end. Okay, for I in range 1 n, sum plus equal int sys.arg I. So we're going to parse through those arguments, and it's going to on a new line here print the result, which is the sum of the integers. Okay, and when we look at what we've got here, total arguments passed 5, our file, and 4 integers. Name of the Python script, test command.py. Arguments passed 3, 4, 5, 6, because we started at our index 1 and not 0, which is our file. And then the results are the sum of those integers. Okay, all right, 7, 11, 18. All right, pretty interesting. All right, so the point with that, other than the code and the command line arguments, is that you just have to save the file before you, when you change things, you just can't change and then run it again. You'll just get the previous thing. So make sure you have a saved file that you're trying to access and pass these arguments to. All right, great. So that's the our sys argv method of passing these command arguments in the command line. Now what I'm going to do here, let's go here and clear this first so we can start over. And let me close this, and we'll go to our argparse method now, which is my personal favorite of the three. And we'll look at some parts of this. We've got import sys again, and now we're going to have to import argparse. Okay. Then we're going to initialize the parser. The variable parser, argparse.argument parser with the description, process some integers. Okay. And then we're going to add in some arguments here. Parser.addArgument. Now we've got the integers, metavar, n, the type, int, number of args. We're going to add those. And then we're going to put in some help arguments as well to help the user when they use the command prompt and enter the arguments. It helps to see what's going on there. Okay. And then parser.addArgument destination, accumulate, action, store, constant. Constant is the sum, and then the help, sum the integers. Okay. And then we've got another variable here, args, parser.parseArgs function. And then we want to, when we're done with all that, we want to print args.accumulate, args.integers. Okay? All right. So let's go here again. I've cleared this out. We've got the VS Code. Now, of course, we'll have to change our file. So let's go Py, and then we've got argparse.py, right? And let's do some different integers here again. All right. So now with the parser here, and with as far as all of these different variables and arguments that we're adding here, I'm not going to break all of these down individually right now. There is a link in the article that you can find, or if you just search for any of these specific things, you'll find plenty of information to explain each one of those in detail. We just don't have the time to do that in this video. So you'll have to take care of that on your own. All right, let's run this here and see what we get. Right? Sum of the integers, 22. Right? Is that right? Yep, 13 and 9 is 22. Okay, now let's try something else a little different here. What we're going to do is our file again, parse.py, and now we're going to call in with our help. And we've set that up as H, so I'm going to go -H, and then our same integers. And now let's check what we get here. All right, so you can see here the usage argparse.py, we've got our help argument, our integers, okay? What does it do? Process some integers. Our positional arguments, the n integer for the accumulator, accumulate, and sum the integers. What this is, what the code is doing actually. And then we've got some optional arguments down here. So you can see with this, not only are you being able to pass these arguments on the command line to this code, but at the same time, if we just add in our help argument with the -H, then we get all this other information that the user can see exactly what's going on with this file. So that's very, very useful. And I want to be clear. I'm not breaking down all of my Python code in detail. Since the focus of this lesson is to introduce you to, command line arguments, I'm not breaking down the Python code. I encourage you to use it as a guide, and then you can go and write your own Python code and use your command line arguments to interact with it. So just to be clear, why I'm not going into super detail about the Python code itself. All right, with that in mind, let's go ahead and clean this up, and we will go on to our third method, the getOpt method. And we've got some code here. Once again, import sys, and now we import getOpt. Options basically is what that is. Okay, and then I'm going to define a function, full name. Okay, first name none, last name none. Just setting up our variables. argv, sys.argv1 through the arguments. Okay, and then we've got a try and except, and then a for loop. Okay, and then we're going to assign dash F. Okay, we've got first and last, F and L for first name and last name we did here, and then they will be arguments dash F, first name, and dash L for the last name. Okay, and then we've got print first name plus last name with space in here. Okay, and then we call our function full name. All right, so let's take a look at that. So let's go ahead and get our command prompt up here. All right, and then same system, Python, and then we're going to get our new file, getOpt.py. Okay, and then with our arguments here, we're going to have our first one, just use my own name, and last, right? And then we'll run that. Okay, and we get the full name, right? And we can do, this can be any obviously any names that you want. The thing that's interesting here that I found is I just thought this was a lot of code. I'm going to clear this out here real quick, and we'll go ahead and close that. Like I said, I just thought this was a lot of code to get something that simple, and that's really the reason that I prefer the sys.argv and argparse modules over the getOpt. Now, you know, with some experimentation, you may be able to come up with ideas on your own that work great for that. And parsing the options may be, you know, the way to go. But I just found that this was a little bit clunky for what I normally like to do. So just keep that in mind when you're considering the getOpt. And these are all powerful tools that you can use with your Python. You know, we've covered the basics here. There's a lot more to this than we can cover in this video, but take that information and run with it. And I found this all very interesting putting this together. So anyway, good luck with your Python and your coding career, and we will talk to you in the next video.